Honestly, this art stuff really isn't hard. You don't need any fancy equipment. You don't need to know what you're doing, especially early on. Um, you don't need to put in the most effort in the world or anything else. You know, if you're doing art or want to draw or whatever, you can either get a pencil and paper like I do. That's how I prefer to do it, or just use your phone. There's apps on there where you can do it. Get a stylus or use your finger. That's what I've done with animation. I use my thumb a lot if I can't find the stylus. So yeah, unless you're playing music, there's not really an investment you need to make, right? If you're making videos and stuff like that, if you're watching me on a phone or something like that, you already have everything you need to be able to, you know, shoot something, edit something, just put videos on YouTube, make movies, whatever it is you want to do. So, equipment, yeah, just not needed, really, for the most part, especially the fancy stuff. We get in our own way. What I mean by that is we let the voices in our head stop us from doing stuff. I've let that happen at points. Everyone lets that happen at points. And, it's not something I'm proud of, but we've all done it. And the truth of the matter is, there's going to be some people that are going to talk crap about whatever you do if you put it out. That's not a big deal to me because it happens. But just know that not everything's going to be for everybody. So you might like what you do or the idea behind it, whether it's drawing music or anything else. And there's so many people on the face of the planet that if you want to hear something or see something a certain way, there's somebody else out there that wants to see it the same way. So the people that are talking crap just want to see the world the way that they want it to be, right? And it's like, well, in my world, this doesn't exist. Well, guess what? In my world, it does. So that's what I'm going to do. Our worlds don't always have to overlap. You know what I'm saying? So, all right. You don't need a budget, really. I mean, with paints and stuff, maybe a small one, but overall, if you're doing stuff, you don't need to spend money on every project or anything like that. People always think, well, yeah, I do, and all this. No, you don't. Okay. Um, I have started and ran a magazine all by myself with no money. I did that for years. I was a stand up. If there was money involved in that, it was just in travel to a place, but no money any other way for that. You know what I'm saying? So, um, all the short movies and stuff I've shot, no money, you know. So, people might tell you you need a budget, this, that, and the other thing, but you really don't. Because what happens is if it's really good or really bad, people are going to remember it. If it's not, if it's somewhere in the middle, people are going to forget it. It just is what it is, okay? So, all right. I already covered that. You don't need to know what you're doing because, especially when you start out, everyone thinks, well, I'm not going to start till I know everything. Well, then you're never going to start because once you get going, you realize there's always something you don't know or could do better. That is what it is. And when I started the old channel, I thought I knew a bit about movies. I was wrong, but I knew just enough to be dangerous enough to be able to start it. You know what I'm saying? So, what I used to do is 7 movie recommendations every day. Basically, is it good? Is it bad? That kind of thing. And it was 7 a day, so 49 a week. I didn't make it all the way through most of them because most of them just ran into each other, right? And everyone wants to think that their thing's special or everyone's going to remember it. Guess what? If you make something you don't like, you want the power stuff because let's face it, anything that people make, the people that make it aren't going to like it as much as others do because we're too close to it. We see all the problems with it and all the downside to it and all that, which is fine, right? It happens. But what people don't take into account is there's a bunch of other people that, first of all, don't know you, don't know how you are in real life on a daily basis. So just you being you and putting whatever's up here out is going to be something that they've never thought of or seen before. And there's one thing that people just don't realize. I used to be a stand-up, and when I was a stand-up, I learned you cannot rely on the people that you know to come out to your shows. Why? Because they are used to getting that stuff for free. Now, I'm not talking about money or anything else. What I'm getting at is the people around you are used to how you are. And when you put stuff out, it goes out to strangers. So the strangers, it's going to be brand new to them. That's why you can run stuff by your friends, family, and all that if you want to, but just know that someone else seeing it isn't going to see the same thing they are, right? And honestly, the reason I bring that up is just when you make stuff, you're too close to it to be objective. At least I am. I know that. I always think I could do better and everything else, but that's just human nature, right? You don't have to make anything serious. People always think, well, I want to make something that's going to change the world. Honestly, in my 40 years on this planet, I've never seen anything change the world for the better. I've seen pieces of art, movies, stuff like that, introduce gangs to areas and stuff like that, which is just factual. You know, Life Jennings even brought up that, you know, Bloods and Crips weren't in Toledo, weren't in Ohio, period, until a certain movie came to town, right? And, you know, people get influenced by it, everything else. So, oh, what's going on? Welcome. Been a minute. But honestly, you don't have to make everything serious. A lot of people want to make the next great American novel or whatever country you're from. And just know that's probably not going to happen. And even the people that make stuff like that aren't always the happiest with what they made, right? Because, like I said, just too close to it. But you can make something light, you can make something funny, you can make something satirical. It doesn't need to be something extremely serious. And as far as animation goes, um, Mike Judge, the guy that came up with Beavis and Butthead and a bunch of other stuff, King of the Hill, his original animations were short. They were under 2 minutes, mainly, if I remember right. The animation wasn't the best and all that. You don't need to have the best. You don't need to have, you can just have it be a little sketch. You can have it be a little character study. And nowadays, you can do it easier than ever. For the animation I do, I use FlipaClip, and I don't have it to where the watermark's gone. So what I do is when I bring it into the editing software for, which is InShot, I up the size of the picture, get that watermark out of the frame. That's it. So you can animate, you can get things done, and honestly, it doesn't need to be something long. You can look at skateboarding videos. There might be some animation in there, but it's not going to be super long usually. So no idea or project is precious. I don't care what you think on that. It's just not. It's never going to be. That's not the way these things work. Really, what it breaks down to is any idea you have, somebody else might be having something similar. It's just, are you going to do it or are they going to do it? And if it comes out at the same time, if you decide to put something out, that's fine. It just means there's something in the air at that point or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes a lot of the same kind of stories are wrote at the same time because people are going through similar experiences. But no idea is precious. Like I said, there's somebody out there having the same idea you are, or something similar to an extent, right? But then again, a lot of people turn what they do into a science and keep, the art out of it. What I mean by that is they might still be drawing or whatever, but that end result, they always take the same steps, and due to it being the same steps, it's kind of easy to catch on to where it's gonna end up. You know what I mean? Um, it's like a stand up having one punchline and just writing a different lead up to it every time. Which I used to do when I was a stand up. I didn't do it on stage, but I'd write like that. It was a writing exercise. But people can make stuff that's predictable. You know what I'm saying? And it can happen fast. It's not necessarily a bad thing if that's what you want to do, go for it. But just know that that is the case. Also, if you're running a story or anything else, if you can't surprise yourself along the way, you're not going to surprise anybody else. That's really it. When I write something or shoot something, I don't know what the end's going to be necessarily. Um, the documentary that I'm working on, I'm not sure what the end on that is. There's a short that I'm working on that I'm trying to make the, the end where it's not like my first one. So I'm running into a little bit of a problem, but that's going to be done hopefully very shortly. But if you can't be surprised, no one else is going to be, right? I covered that. There's no such thing as too crazy or anything else because there's somebody out there that's going to like that, right? Period. I'm even though there's a Friday the 13th poster behind me, I'm not a Friday the 13th fan overall. The first one was, and all the rest are just boobs and people dying. That's it. So not really my thing, but that's for somebody. You know what I'm saying? I like stuff like X Cross. That's not going to be for everybody. Or Bad Boy Bubby, which definitely isn't for everybody. Or Pink Flamingos, which isn't for everybody. You know, if you're a horror movie fan, you might really like the Terrifier series. I don't personally. I like some slashers and stuff like that, but there's no way anyone could pay me enough money to watch those movies. I've watched Terrifier. I've watched about 5 minutes of Terrifier 2, and there's no way I'm watching any more of this, right? But there's a bunch of people out there that dig what he does. Oh, some people love Gummo, stuff like that. So what I'm saying is, you can make whatever kind of story you want, whatever kind of art you want, and it's not going to be for everything. Everybody, I mean, not everything. But it's not going to be for everybody because nothing's for everybody. Nothing can be for everybody. We're all too different. If you make something for everyone, that means you've either hit a universal truth, which you may have, good on you if you have, or it's so watered down that it can't offend anybody. And, you know, either way, one, you got lucky, the other way, you made something that's going to be forgettable. You know what I'm saying? Covered that. There are opportunities out there, just people don't always shout that there's opportunities. Anybody can make a video on YouTube, right? Anybody. So you have an account, there you go. If you have the app on your phone, guess what? Go to the bottom, press plus, record a short or something if you want. You know, anyone can do this stuff. It's not like, you know, it has a really high bar to entry, right? You don't need a bunch of equipment and anything anyway. The only thing I'm using is a pan light from Home Depot and a phone stand. Now, when I started, I didn't have the phone stand and then I didn't have the pan light. The only reason I have the pan light is this area is a little dark. That's it. Otherwise, I wouldn't even have the pan light. You don't have to do stuff in other people's style. You can do it in your own because your style will stand out if it's not like everyone else's. Because usually, what happens, and this is with everything, I've seen it throughout my lifetime, is one thing will happen, it'll hit, and other people will start jumping on trying to copy the style, whether it's writing, drawing, shooting, story, whatever, and it will be done to death. So then people are off looking for the next thing. Now, you can stick with whatever it is that you do or like doing, and there's a lot of people that will like that and cling on to that because they're looking for just that. They're looking for someone to bulk trims and everything else. And the reason I bring this up is look at Quentin Tarantino. He hasn't really changed what he has done, right? And due to that, the fans from back in the day are still his fans now for the most part. Guerrilla filmmaking is a thing. YouTubers do it all the time. They shoot stuff on the street without permission. You can do this. Look into the laws for whatever area, but because they're outside, there is no real expectation of privacy. You can do that. So you can shoot basically wherever you want outside, right? So you don't need to spend money and all that to make a movie, show, whatever it is that you want to do. With outdoor locations, especially, you don't have to be good at what you do. You'll get better as you go. Some people want to be good right away. It's just not going to happen. And that's really all there is to it. People can try to be good or say that they are this, that, or the other, but you don't have to be, right? There's people out there that I think are really bad. Just this stuff's not for me at all. But look at it this way: outsider art exists. Outsider art means untrained art. Um, Stuff that you might think looks really bad or whatever. But guess what? There's people out there that dig that stuff too. So, that. There's good stuff and then there's stuff that's done. And what I mean by that is you might not be happy with what you make all the time. You might think it's garbage. If you're making anything, you don't have to put it out anyway. You can keep it, you can throw it away, you can do whatever the hell you want with it. But there's good and there's done. And you aren't going to be happy with what you make. And you're going to be critical of it because we all are, right? But just because it's not to your liking 100% doesn't mean that it's not going to have value to somebody else. There's stuff that, not the proudest of, that I put out that people did. So, the art's not for me. The making it's for me. If I put it out, that after I practice with him, right? That. Originality no longer exists because stories and stuff have been told for so long that every kind of story has been told. Now, what it is mashing stuff up really that does it. It's changing the angle, finding a different approach or a different execution. That's really about it. Creativity isn't hard, it's just asking and answering questions. Different beats talent because you can be the most talented person in the world, but what you do might not stand out, and different always stands out, right? Because if everyone's, let's put it this way, with shark movies, not a big fan of shark movies, but if somebody does one where the shark attacks are the main part of the movie and it doesn't have all the normal characters and all that, even if the story is mainly similar, it's going to stand out like a sore thumb. Get what I mean? Proof that you don't need to know what you're doing. Wesley Willis was a musician from Chicago. He had mental problems, all that. He had a keyboard, an electronic keyboard, which in the beginning I think he just turned on and used whatever was pre-programmed on there and wrote and sang to it. Right? So he had a career, he toured some, he was on a record label, all kinds of stuff. See what I'm saying? So you never know. Underground comics do exist, meaning you don't have to do the mainstream stuff. You can make whatever you want, and there will be people out there that will dig it. This has been the case for over 50 years. I believe over 50, around 50. But I think I'll leave it there for now.